Hey there guys, Rochelle here with Amethyst Ascension. If you are new here, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you so much for joining me again. So today I am doing a hashtag, a really fun hashtag that my friend Courtney over at Eries Witchcraft came up with. I thought it was brilliant, I thought it was so much fun, and immediately I knew I wanted to do it. So the name of the hashtag is called Tarot in Wonderland. I will be putting a link down below to Courtney's original video. I will also be putting all of the prompts down below, all the questions, and there are 12 of them. So let's just get started. So the first prompt is, what deck sent you down a tarot rabbit hole? And there's a few decks, but I decided to pick one of them, and it is the Real Sky Astrology Tarot deck by Julie Kushawatz. And the reason this sent me down a tarot rabbit hole is because this does not go by like your regular tarot system as far as like the minors and stuff. She actually incorporates astrology into these, like the Seven of Cups being Mars squared, instead of like the deacons that you see in Western astrology or in like your Rider-Waite system or even your Thoth system. So you see? And she also threw some cards in here. I mean, gosh, I love this deck so much. But she also threw some cards in here showing, like, when you're looking at your astrological chart, what this symbolizes, what that symbolizes, this side of your chart and that side of your chart. This was all like brand new to me. Or, yeah, pretty brand new. It was like revolutionary for me. And then it started me down the rabbit hole of Real Sky Astrology. And there's just no looking back after that. But the artwork, oh my goodness gracious, she is such a beautiful artist. So she put two of my loves together, which was astrology and tarot. And I need to work with this deck more. It is difficult because it is a big deck. I mean, as you can see, it's a big deck, but I do love it. So this system sent me down a rabbit hole of discovery, and I'm still discovering, and I just love that. So the next prompt is, what deck makes you smile like the Cheshire Cat? This particular deck is supposed to be colorful and bright and just brings light to you. And I also have several decks that do that as well, and I've talked about them, but I wanted to show a different one that is just so colorful. And I love the bags. Look at that. I just love this deck. It is so pretty. It is so light and airy, and it's like the sun with all of the gold. So this was the deck that I chose for my Cheshire Cat. Look at that. So that was the Chrysalis Tarot. So the next prompt was, what is your favorite Tweedledee and Tweedledum decks? This is a tarot with a matching oracle. And I actually have two sets that I wanted to talk about today. So the first one is the Wandering Moon Tarot, mixed with the Wandering Soul Oracle. And there is a new version of the tarot that I am looking at possibly getting in the future also. I'm not sure. We'll see. I do love it. I think it's absolutely stunning. And it's like the midnight version. So do you see? Oops, let me make sure I'm actually in it. I am sorry, guys. Maybe I should bring this out a little bit. No, we'll just leave it at that. I'll just move it over. So it's these. You see how beautiful they work together? The backs are pretty. Look at the sparkle on them. Look at the bling on the sides. So my Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Okay, sorry. I had traffic going through. So yes. Matching Oracle and Tarot. I just love these. I think they are a wonderful pair. And I specifically bought them as a pairing to work together with. I love the artwork. I love the backs. I love the sides. I love the messages. Everything. So again, that was the Wandering Moon Tarot and the Wandering Soul Oracle. The other set that I was referring to is the Journey of the Sacred Bee Tarot and the Wisdom of the Sacred Bee Oracle. So, let me just show you. The tarot has here's the backs, and that's the sides. And then the Sacred Bee Oracle. There is the backs and the sides. And I love working with these together. Beautiful. The colors. The messages are great. They look so good in my journal. Maybe that's a bit shallow, but I don't care. It is what it is. I'm a very visual person, so artwork is important to me as well. And so yes, the set. So again, that was the Journey of the Sacred Bee and the Wisdom of the Sacred Bee Oracle. Okay, so the next question, number 4, is which is your Red Queen deck? This deck becomes your nemesis after buying it. And I had to really think about this because I don't really know if I have nemesis, but the one deck that I could majorly think of that was a disappointment in some regards, not all regards, it was the Supernatural Tarot. I binge watched 15 seasons of this. I've talked about this before, but I binge watched 15 seasons of this all in a row, and it took me maybe 3 or 4 months to go through them, which for 15 seasons, and we're talking about maybe like 26 episodes a season. That's a lot of watching. That is a lot of episodes to go through. Some it would be 2 or 3 in an evening. Some it would be a half of one in an evening. It just depended. But so I had built up a strong love of this particular deck, or this particular show, I should say. And you know, I love the coloring. I think it's appropriate. I love the backs. The cardstock is, it's all right. It's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite either. I absolutely do not mind the quartz. I do not mind the major arcana, but I felt like the minor arcana was hit or miss, and the goblets are not that bad, but like especially the pentacles, I mean, that is so cool. Look at that. That is really cool. But the pentacles really fall short for me. They really fell short. And I didn't really care for the blood either. Yeah, the goblets, I could see that. But this fell short because it just was not consistent for the pips, considering how many seasons of shows there were, how many episodes that they could have used as material. So many situations happened in this show that they could have used for the pips, and they didn't. So it was a major disappointment. I do still love the deck because it's like a collector's kind of thing. But to actually use it, no. And the other deck, there is another deck. And this might be a little shocking to some, but it's not for the reason that you might think. And that is the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, the Vitruvian edition. The reason why I would have considered this a nemesis was because when I got this, I was so intimidated by all the material that came with it. And so much, it just felt like there was so much learning that you had to do in order to use the damn deck. And I know that that's something that I just put on myself. I just like hyped this deck up so much, and it just became like an intimidation to me. But I think it's also because I got this at the same time that I was really still learning and had just gotten a whole bunch of other decks and just felt kind of overwhelmed in it. So it just did not feel as accessible to me, or I just felt overwhelmed by it. So when the Revelations edition came out, and it was in color, and it was more a lot of the stories that I was, not that it wasn't in here too, but I don't know, there was something with the Revelations edition that made it feel more accessible for me, or maybe I was just more prepared at that point by the time that one came out. And now this deck is I no longer feel intimidated by this deck. I feel excited about this deck. But also I realize you do not have to use every aspect of the deck if you don't want to. It's there if you want to use it, but you don't have to. So those are my two picks for the Red Queen. The ones that became my nemesises. Okay, so the next question or prompt is 5. Your Drink Me deck, which is your smallest cards. And I also have 2, because I'm extra, 2 different decks for that. First of all, I think this was my first small deck. I won this in a giveaway from the beautiful Masha, and it is the Smith Waite Tarot deck, Centennial Edition, in a tin. This is really good for when you're doing bigger spreads and you don't have the room for it. But as many of you know, I'm not a huge fan of the Rider-Waite art, but this version, it's not as bad. So there's that. And then the other deck that I am just, oh my gosh, I just recently got this and I just love it so much. It's the Root and Wings. This is the little like pocket edition. And this one is the, this one is like the, was it irregulars, or they were not cut right, or from the factory. So they were still for sale on her Etsy. But, and this is like rose petal. And I just love it. Now, I have been inspired, because I really love using this deck. I have been inspired to, gosh, I love that card. When the bigger version comes out again, I do want to get it. And I do hope it's in this cardstock, because at first I was like, oh, I don't know, that feels so flimsy. There doesn't feel like there is a core to it. But oh my goodness, watch this. Is this not the most satisfying thing? Yeah, baby. So that was my 2 for my small decks. The next category was your Eat Me deck, which had to do with like your biggest cards. And for me, that was the Ancestral Path Tarot, also by the creator of the Real Sky Astrology Tarot, which is Julie Kusha-Watts. These are such massive, I mean, look at, they are massive cards. But, my goodness, look at this artwork. She is such an incredible artist. This artwork is so inspiring. I just love, I mean, look at that 7 of Cups. It's like scrying and looking at all the different chances or choices or opportunities, right? Yeah, it's just wild. Looking at all the possible different futures based on what you choose. And I love the Fool card in this deck also. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. You see, she's holding her own card. How fabulous is that? And these are the backs. You can see all the backs. That was just genius. This is just a beautiful deck. I need to use this more. It's just so big that it's difficult to maneuver, but I still don't want it to stop me because I love this deck. So that was my Eat Me deck, which was my biggest cards. Okay, so the next prompt is you're late, very important late. What deck gave you Fomo anxiety before you got your hands on it? And there was not many, honestly. But when it does happen, it's mainly your, you know, independent creators. It's not your mass market. And this one is the one that I followed for a couple of years, hoping that I would get a copy. And I watched the newsletter religiously. I watched Evelyn's channel religiously, just waiting for any clue as to when this was going to come out and this was going to be available. Do you see why? I mean, my goodness gracious. I love this deck so much. I swear I would like dream about this deck. I wanted this deck so badly. The fact that I got it, I was just so grateful. I mean, the Wheel of Fortune, like the 3 fates, right? Oh my gosh. Weaving. Oh, I just love it. I have used this deck many, many times, and you can see it in the wearing and tearing of the, yeah, you see that? So that was my Fomo deck, the deck that gave me Fomo anxiety before I got my hands on it. So the next prompt is your White Queen deck. This is a colorful and lighthearted deck. So I think I kind of got that mixed up with the deck that just makes you smile, but they both kind of fit into the same one. And it's this new deck that I recently got called the Unfolding Path Tarot. Oh my goodness, I just love this deck. I have used it several times already. The backs are just gorgeous. The cardstock I was not sure of until I started using it and shuffling with it. Let me show you this shuffle. Oh my goodness gracious. It's another one of those that just works for me because they are, they're just, the core is good, or they're just so flexible, because all of the years of bead embroidery and bead weaving, my hands are just not as strong. And, you know, there's like, it just pains me. It pains me to even write. So, at least for any length of time. But the Unfolding Path Tarot, this just brings such a smile to my face. I love using this particular deck. I feel like it is so colorful, and it's just sunshiny and mystical, and yeah, I'm just loving it. Not all of them are, yeah, you see what I'm saying. But for the most part, even to get this card, which I did recently, it's still gorgeous. I mean, it is still a feast for these eyes of mine. So you just can't go wrong with that. I just can't go wrong with that. So yet again, my White Queen deck was the Unfolding Path Tarot. So the next prompt is, show me a deck with artwork as mad as a hatter. And I have 2 decks for that. I don't know as if I would constitute these as mad as a hatter, but definitely different. So, but I love them. So one is the Relative Tarot, and the other one is, which this was my first deck that was Divine Muses. This was my first deck that was like a different collage-y kind of deck. So these are my 2 choices, Tarot and Oracle. And they're just different. Do you see what I mean? I love them so much. Yeah. Gosh, I love that one. I've used this Oracle so many times. And it's just like profound. It is so good. God, they're just like old and vintagey, collagey. Yeah, just love them. So those were my 2 decks for the Mad Hatter, the Relative Tarot, and the Divine Muses. So the next prompt is, what deck would you take to a tea party? So I have 2 decks for that. A tarot and an oracle. So one is the 5-cent tarot. And this just seems so cool to me. There's the backs. And this does have a matching oracle, which I like, but when I think of an oracle taken to a tea party, I think of botanicals. I think of beautiful flowery saucers and cups and like a tea party outside, garden party, you know. And so it made me think of this particular deck. But this one, because it's kind of cool and eclectic and it makes me think of like Victorian times. This one. Actually, both of them do, but for different reasons. This I could see as a real conversation starter at a tea party because of all of the oddities and stuff like that that are in there. And this one I can see as, oh my gosh, just really the beautiful hats and the beautiful dresses and the flowers and the beautiful tea and the little, you know, little pastries and everything, just really setting the scene. So I can see like 2 different kinds of tea parties. So those were my 2 choices for tarot decks, or decks that I would like to take to a tea party. So the Botanical Inspirations and the 5-cent tarot. So the next prompt is your Jabberwocky deck. This deck is dark and mysterious. And for me, I also have 2 decks. The Macabre Tarot, because it is a deck that is designed around exploring the shadow and the shadow side of all of the different tarot archetypes. So that seems dark to me. A little bit mysterious and creepy, but more just really dark to me. And exploring the mysteries of the unseen. And the other deck is this newer one, the Dreamkeeper's Tarot that I got by Liz Houston. And this one also seems like just like exploring the world of your dreams and that dream landscape, which is about discovering more hidden things that are lying underneath in your psyche or in your subconscious. So it's not really dark, although when you think of sleeping, you think of being in the dark. But it's more about, for me, uncovering mysteries. And the artwork, I mean, some of it's kind of quirky and dark. Very surreal. But, gee, just beautiful. Isn't this so beautiful? Yeah. So those were my 2 Jabberwocky decks. And the last prompt, prompt 12, is show me your Alice deck. Either an actual Alice in Wonderland deck or a deck that always takes you on a journey when you read it. And I was going to go with like Tarot of the She or, what is the other one? For Haxa, but I decided to go a different way. These 2 decks. Uncover Your Past Life Oracle, because, and I don't have any Alice in Wonderland decks. Because these decks, both in their own right, are designed for helping you discover information about your past lives. They explore them in different ways, but I think they both add to it. So I would use this deck to get my fundamental information and then explore further with this deck or another tarot. But you can see so on the other side is like the time frame, so Neolithic Revolution, the lesson that you learned in that lifetime, overcoming loss, the way that you died was drowning. It's very specific. And then you can go into further detail on the other side of the cards. And then the location was North America, disaster, trauma. Faith was magic-based. Love was non-possessive. So the way that I use this particular deck is, let's say I want to explore, okay, so how did I die? How did I die in that past life? In this past life that I am trying to gain more information from, or this previous life. So, okay, let's say that this one, well, that's an example. So let's say that this one comes up. Starvation or dehydration. And then if you want to turn it over and see what was up, maybe because, and you can, this is where you can go a little bit deeper if you choose to, or you can use these independently in different ways. But if I got this, and then I turn it over this way up, and it looks like I was a witness to, like a murder by poisoning. So perhaps because of being a witness, I was locked away somewhere where I was left to just die. Do you see what I'm saying? So perhaps I was locked in a cell somewhere or put into a box somewhere because somebody didn't want me telling the truth of what I had witnessed. So that's how I died. I know it's morbid, right? But this kind of stuff is never, it's not just, ooh, that's exciting. Some of this is like, wow, really? This deck is really cool. I love it. And they both come with really, really cool guidebooks. So this one, this is an actual tarot based, and I wished I had this came with actually 2 different books. Well, I purchased 2 different books. One is like 21 ways of working through, or 21 days of working through different past lives. And it like goes into great depth for each past life. There's like 21 spreads for that. And also there's other spreads that, ask other questions like what is like the core qualities of your soul in itself when it was like split off from the source and stuff like that. And then there's another book that comes with this, which talks about not only the artwork that's used, the time that this artwork was created. So that might be a clue, like let's say 1700 and something. So like for this, St. Louis, King of France, from Workshop of El Greco, and this was 1615 to 1630. So this could also be in one of the questions a time period for me, or to look into that area. It could be France. It could also be King of Cups, Benevolent Man. There's just more clues that you can use with this particular deck. And the lady that created this deck created this because that's predominantly what she did, was a lot of past life readings. And so this is how this deck evolved. So I love them both for the different ways that you can use them. And I need to start offering past life readings, because these are actually really profound, and what comes up in my mind is just like wowza. I mean, I like see it. So anyways, those were my 12 prompts, and I decided to expand on that. It was supposed to be one deck for each, other than like your number 3 prompt, which was Tweedledee and Tweedledum. But I decided I'm going to show more because I just wanted to. So this was hashtag Tarot in Wonderland, and this is a VR2, beautiful Courtney over at Eries Witchcraft. I will be putting all of her information down below, and as well as the prompts, and I hope you join in on this super fun tag along with me. Thank you so much.